it's just me, Rachel again. This is part 2 of my video about whether shunning is compatible with a belief in freedom of religious choice. Anyway, I mentioned in my last video that I wanted to read from a couple of articles that I found. One of them is an Awake magazine. Well, actually, they're both Awake magazines. And I find it rather hypocritical because the kinds of things that are spoken of as occurring, the kind of religious intolerance that we have seen over the centuries, is really what the Jehovah's Witnesses practice towards their former members. So what this first article, it's called Religious Intolerance Now Admitted, and it's actually talking about how it was back in 1998 that the Catholic Church made an apology for the actions of Mary Tudor. She was a queen, the daughter of King Henry VIII, and strictly Catholic, very devout Catholic. Anyway, she tried to, the Protestant Reformation sort of went ahead with her father, Henry VIII, making himself the supreme head of the Church of England. But when she took up the throne, she tried to get the country back to Catholicism again and would execute Protestants. It was just horrible, we had Protestants killing Catholics and vice versa. Anyway, so yeah. Okay, I won't read it all, but the interesting point, I thought, there's a subheading, wrongly motivated conscience, and it says, why did Mary order so many people burned to death? She had been taught that heretics were traitors to God, and she thought it her duty to cut out their influence before they infected the whole nation. She listened to her conscience but ignored the rights of others whose consciences led them in another direction. Now this is interesting, isn't it? Because you see how the leadership of Jehovah's Witnesses, the governing body, view heretics in their organisation that they like to call apostates. And they talk about them infecting the organisation and they need to be cut out. But, and of course, being cut out means, for those of us who have been disfellowshipped, that we have lost contact with friends and family who are still in that organisation. But it says here that when she did this, burning them at the stake and that sort of thing, she listened to her conscience but ignored the rights that they had, who had a different conscience to her. So, actually at the end of the paragraph it says, over the next century, hundreds more died for their religious opinions. And that's basically what we see in Jehovah's Witness organisation, that many are shunned and cut off and isolated from their families because of their religious opinion. So really, what Jehovah's Witnesses do is very similar, and so it's quite hypocritical for the writer of this article to point out the wrongs of Mary when in fact their organisation does the same thing. And the very final subheading is, why apologise now? And I'll just read this. December 10th, 1998 marked the 50th anniversary of the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Article 18 recognises the right to freedom of thought, conscience and religion, including the freedom to change one's religion and to teach and practice it. The Roman Catholic bishops of England and Wales chose the 50th anniversary as an appropriate occasion for Catholics to examine their consciences in these matters and to acknowledge the terrible wrongs committed particularly in the time of Mary Judah. Although acts of religious intolerance nearly 450 years ago are now regretted, has anything really changed? People are no longer burned at the stake, but so many so-called Christians continue to rape and slaughter those of other religions. Some Christians, it doesn't say this, but some Christians choose to shun and cut off people from their families. Which is preferable to being slaughtered, isn't it? But still, some ex-witnesses wish they were dead. Such intolerance does not please God. Indeed, Jesus Christ, the one who perfectly reflects God's personality, declared, "By this all will know that you are my disciples, if you have love among yourselves." So certainly there is no love displayed within the Jehovah's Witness organisation when they cut off fellow members for having a different religious opinion. Absolutely no love at all. And extreme intolerance. Anyway, so that article was from the year 2000. It was April the 8th, page 12 to 14. Now this other one is it's the Awake from 1998, November the 22nd, and it's called Human Rights and Wrongs Today. And it says in here, it mentions again the Universal Declaration, goes through some of the articles in it, some of those freedoms that we should have. And there's a subheading here, choosing and changing one's religion. And it states, Article 18 from the Declaration, everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience and religion. This right includes freedom to change his religion. On October the 16th, 1997, the UN General Assembly received an interim report on the elimination of all forms of religious intolerance. The report, prepared by the Special Rapporteur, I don't know how you pronounce that, of the Commission on Human Rights, and I'm not going to pronounce his name, lists continuing violations of Article 18. Speaking about a wide array of countries, the report quotes numerous cases of harassment, threats, mistreatment, arrests, detentions, disappearances and murders. So I think that shunning would come under mistreatment at the very least. Similarly, the 1997 Human Rights Reports, compiled by the US Bureau of Democracy, Human Rights and Labour, points out that even countries with a long tradition of democracy have sought to restrict freedoms for a small group of minority faiths, lumping them all together as cults. Such trends are a cause for concern. Willie Fortray, president of the Brussels-based organisation Human Rights Without Frontiers, notes, this is interesting, religious liberty is one of the best indications of the general state of human freedom in any given society. So what does it say about the organisation of Jehovah's Witnesses if we refer to them as any given society? What does it state when you look at how they don't allow a person to change their religion without being punished for it? So, yeah, and of course the organisation lumps all those who leave basically under the title apostate and paints them as just being these most horrible, wicked people. Which is so wrong. I mean, and that's bordering on hate speech too, what they say about former members who perhaps are vocal about their different beliefs or want to expose the wrongs of the organisation. But anyway, I think hopefully you can see that shunning is not compatible with the professed belief that the witnesses have that there should be freedom to choose religion and to change religion. They certainly don't respect those of us who have made the choice to leave or who have been disfellowshipped supposedly for apostate views because we have changed a belief on something that the witnesses teach. So no, they practice intolerance And even though they state, like in the frequently asked questions section on jw.org, you know, are we tolerant of other religions? Well, they're not really, are they? I mean, they don't go up to people of other religions and outright accuse them of things, but the literature is full of condemnatory remarks about the churches of Christendom and those that attend those churches. So, and they fail to recognise any good that any of these churches or the people in them, any good that they do for society. So I don't really think it's true tolerance. Anyway, I think I've spoken enough, and I've sort of feel like I've spoken enough about it. So I'll see you for my next video. Bye.